At my brother's reception, I bent down to pick up a few paper cups that had blown near the edge of the dance floor. Nothing dramatic, nothing unusual. That's when I heard him. "That her?" His voice was loud enough to cut through the music. "She looks like she came to serve, not celebrate." Laughter. Not the light, kind, but sharp. The kind that stings. I froze, one hand still reaching for a crumpled cup near someone's heel, my back tensed. I didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. Marcus, Jalen's old college buddy. I remembered him from a few game nights at our house back when Jalen still lived with me, always loud, always careless with his words. And then came her. Aunt Rosalind, who never missed a moment to twist the knife just a little deeper. "Maybe she should clean up too," she laughed, practically slapping her knee like she'd said the most hilarious thing in the world. My fingers curled around the cup tighter than I meant them to. It was just a cup, but right then it felt like a symbol of every unnoticed thing I'd done to make this wedding happen. Every late night, every early morning, every dollar scraped together from side gigs and skipped meals. I kept my eyes low. Don't cry, not here, not in front of them. The room didn't pause. The music kept playing. Guests kept laughing, plates clattered and clinked in celebration. But my world had gone quiet. Someone turned down the volume just for me. I stood up slowly, trying to ignore the heat creeping up my neck, the way my heart pounded in my ears. I could feel eyes on me. Whether it was imagined or not, I didn't know. Why did his words hurt so much? Why did she laugh like that? Did I look that out of place? Was it the plain navy dress I wore because all my money had gone into the catering deposit? Or the scuffed flats I hadn't had time to polish? Was I not enough to be part of this celebration? I caught my reflection in a nearby glass window, my hair frizzing at the sides, a smear of something near my wrist from earlier when I was helping the florist fix the centerpiece. I didn't look like the other women, glowing in glitter and champagne silk. I looked tired. I looked like help. Still, I said nothing. I just kept collecting the cups and napkins scattered across the table near the gift box, forcing my expression into something neutral. Jalen didn't hear it. He was across the room, laughing with his new in-laws, completely unaware. And honestly, I didn't want to ruin his day. He didn't know about the hours I spent negotiating with vendors, or how I told Liam we couldn't do his birthday party this year because Uncle's big day is coming up. He didn't ask for my help, but he also didn't stop me. So I told myself to be invisible, just for tonight. As I stacked the last of the cups, I caught a glimpse of Liam sitting quietly at our table, swinging his legs beneath the chair. His eyes met mine, serious, still. I gave him a weak smile and looked away. But what I didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Liam had heard everything. And what that boy would do next. No one saw it coming, not even me. My name is Talia. I'm a 35-year-old single mom, full-time office manager, part-time florist, and unofficial family fixer. For most of my life, I've played the background, cleaning up the messes, solving the problems, doing the work no one thanks you for. And that's fine. Really. Most of the time, I don't need applause. But that night, that reception, it reminded me just how invisible I'd become. The day had started off beautifully. I'd arrived at the venue before the sun even came up, clipboard in hand, hair barely brushed, and Liam half asleep in the back seat with a Pop-Tart clutched in one hand. The hall was still empty then, quiet and cold. I remember the echo of my footsteps as I walked through the room, visualizing everything we had planned over months of meetings, emails, and budget spreadsheets. My brother, Jalen, was getting married to a woman named Amara, sweet, soft-spoken, and effortlessly gorgeous. She looked like someone out of a bridal magazine. Their love story had the whole family swooning, how they met at work, bonded over coffee orders, fell in love during lockdown. It was the kind of story that made people believe in fate. And me? I believed in spreadsheets. When Jalen first told me they were struggling to afford the wedding of their dreams, I didn't even hesitate. I offered to cover most of the big stuff, the venue deposit, the catering, the decor. I said I had savings. What I didn't say was that those savings were actually meant for a down payment on a better apartment for Liam and me. But Jalen's my little brother. We grew up close, just the two of us and our mom, Diane. She did her best. Things were always tight. I used to walk Jalen home from school, braid his hair when he cried over tangles, and sit through hours of video games just to make him smile. So when he asked me if I'd help, without really asking, I didn't even blink. Over the months, I became the planner, the bank, and the emotional buffer between our chaotic family and the bride's perfectionist mother. I did it all quietly, out of love, but somewhere deep down, I guess I thought maybe someone would notice. The reception hall sparkled that evening. Gold drapes shimmered behind the head table. Floating candles flickered in tall glass vases. The cake, 5 tiers of vanilla almond perfection, sat like a crown jewel in the corner. People kept saying it looked Pinterest-worthy. They didn't know I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. the night before arranging those centerpieces by hand, pricking my fingers on floral wire until they bled. As guests poured in, all glammed up and giddy, I tried to melt into the background. I wore a simple navy dress I'd bought from a clearance rack 2 years ago. I didn't want to stand out. I wanted the day to shine for Jalen. I sat at a table near the back with Liam, watching him poke at his mac and cheese with a plastic fork. He looked just like his dad did at that age. Brown eyes full of thoughts he didn't know how to say yet. I reached over and straightened his little collar, smiling to myself. That moment was probably the calmest I felt all day. Just 10 minutes later, Marcus would open his mouth. Aunt Rosalind would laugh, and everything would shift. But right then, all I knew was this. My brother was happy. The wedding was beautiful, and I had made it all happen. Quietly, invisibly. I just didn't realize how invisible until they laughed. I don't know what hurt more, Marcus's words, or how easily everyone laughed. She looks like she came to serve, not celebrate. That line kept echoing in my head as I busied myself with clearing the table. It wasn't even my table, but I guess that was the point. My hands moved automatically, collecting plates and used napkins, like I was on a shift no one asked me to clock into. I tried to focus on the motion, plate, cup, napkin, trash, because the alternative was thinking too much. And if I started thinking too much, I'd start crying. And I would not cry. Not here, not tonight. The laughter had died down, at least on the outside. People went back to their drinks and their shrimp cocktails, like nothing had happened. But inside, I was burning. I kept glancing at Jalen, hoping maybe he'd seen the look on my face. Maybe he'd ask if I was okay. But he didn't. He was out on the dance floor, pulling Amara close while a slow song played, smiling like a man who had everything he ever wanted. And in that moment, I felt so small. Why did his friend feel comfortable saying that out loud? Why did my aunt think it was funny? I knew I wasn't the glamorous sister. I knew I wasn't anyone's idea of radiant. I came from work, I came from struggle, I came from real life. Maybe I did look like help. But what they didn't see was what I carried. Not just tonight, but for years. All the weight I'd been holding to keep this family standing. I stepped outside for a second, needing air, needing space. The cool breeze hit my face like a slap, and I welcomed it. My eyes burned, but I refused to let the tears fall. I leaned against the side wall of the building, looking out at the cars in the parking lot. I felt like one of them, used, parked, waiting to be useful again. Then I heard the door creak open behind me. Liam. He padded over quietly, dressed in his little gray blazer and blue sneakers, clutching a juice pouch like it was his lifeline. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood next to me, eyes fixed on the sky. "Are you sad, Mommy?" I paused, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. "No," I lied. "Just tired." He nodded slowly, but he didn't believe me. Kids know. He leaned his head against my arm, and we stood there like that, side by side in the dark, pretending not to feel what we felt. When we walked back in, I told myself to push it all down. I wasn't going to let them ruin this day. I wasn't going to make a scene. I went back to clearing the last few cups near the dessert table, trying to make myself as invisible as possible. But I noticed something odd. Liam hadn't gone back to our table. He was still standing near the edge of the dance floor, watching, listening. Then, slowly, he started walking toward the stage. I furrowed my brow, setting down the tray in my hands. What was he doing? The DJ was mid-song when Liam reached the front, where the mic stood waiting for the next host or cheesy wedding game, and then he reached up and tapped the mic. It let out a loud, sharp pop. Heads turned, conversation stopped, and my heart sank, because something was about to happen, and I had no idea what it was. At first, I thought Liam had wandered off to chase a balloon or maybe ask the DJ for a song. That would have been normal. That would have been safe. But when I saw him standing there, small hands gripping the edge of the stage, one foot nervously tapping the wood, I knew something was different. He looked like he was gathering courage. My breath caught in my throat. I whispered his name under my breath, but he didn't hear me, or maybe he ignored it. The DJ was mid-laugh, chatting with one of the groomsmen when Liam tapped the microphone. Tap, tap. Then that loud, screeching pop. The kind that makes everyone in the room flinch. The room went still, like someone had hit the pause button. All eyes turned toward him. My son, my 8-year-old son, standing under fairy lights and chandeliers, clutching a microphone almost too big for his hands. The silence was thick, heavy. I started moving, pushing through the tables toward the front. My heart raced. My mouth was dry. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I knew he'd heard something he shouldn't have. I wanted to stop him, to pull him down, to wrap him up and say, "It's okay, baby, Mommy's fine." But I didn't make it in time, because he cleared his throat and said, "Hi, my name is Liam. I'm Talia's son." And just like that, I froze. People turned in their chairs. Napkins were slowly lowered to laps. Aunt Rosalind shifted uncomfortably. Marcus looked up, confused. Jalen had just started walking back toward his seat with Amara when he stopped dead in his tracks. My mom helped with everything here. She paid for the food and the flowers and the chairs. She didn't even buy herself a new dress because she wanted it to be pretty for everyone else. His voice shook a little, but he kept going. His small chest puffed out like he was trying to be brave. She even helped my uncle when he didn't have enough money. She just wanted him to be happy. My vision blurred as the tears finally came, hot and fast. I stopped walking. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stood there, watching this tiny version of me doing something I'd never had the guts to do, demand to be seen. And I heard someone say she looked like a maid, he said, his voice trembling now. But my mommy's not a maid. She's a superhero. There was no applause, no laughs, just silence, the kind that hurts. Marcus turned beet red. Aunt Rosalind shrunk down in her chair. Even the DJ looked like he wanted to crawl under his table. And Jalen, he looked like someone had poured ice water over his heart. Liam looked around the room like he was waiting for someone to say something, but no one did. So he just nodded once, like he'd said what he needed to say. Then he handed the mic back to the DJ, climbed down the steps with wobbling legs, and walked straight toward me. I dropped to my knees, wrapped him up so tight I felt his heartbeat against mine. "Why'd you do that, baby?" I whispered. He pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes. "Because they forgot," he said, "and I didn't want them to forget." And in that moment, something shifted in the air, not just around me, but in me, because for the first time, I didn't feel invisible anymore. After Liam stepped down from the stage, it felt like the whole reception had shifted on its axis. People weren't laughing anymore, they were staring. At him, at me, at the silence that had swallowed up the room like a wave. I was still kneeling on the carpet, holding Liam in my arms, when I felt the weight of it all finally land, like I'd been holding up a house on my shoulders and someone had just taken it off without warning. I didn't know what to do. Should I run? Should I explain? Should I pretend none of this had happened? But I didn't have to make a move, because that's when I heard another mic click on. A familiar voice, low, quiet, shaky. It was Jalen. He was standing on the stage now, one hand in his pocket, the other holding the microphone. Amara stood off to the side, her hands clutched in front of her dress, eyes glossy with tears. Jalen cleared his throat once, twice. He glanced at me, then down at Liam, then back at the crowd. "I didn't know what to say at first," he said slowly, voice trembling just enough to make every word stick, because he's right. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the kitchen staff had stopped. Someone turned down the music and the whole room leaned in. Talia, my sister. She didn't just help with this wedding. She made it happen. She paid for it. She planned it. She gave up more than anyone here will ever know, just so today could be perfect. For me. My hands shook as I gripped Liam's little shoulder, grounding myself with his warmth. She didn't ask for recognition. She didn't even tell most of you what she did. That's who she is. She's been like that our whole lives. His voice cracked then, and he paused. She raised me more than anyone else did. When Mom had to work 3 jobs, it was Talia who made sure I got to school. She helped me with homework. She made me believe I could be something, and I'm standing here today, getting married, living my dream, because she gave me the space to chase it. My heart was pounding. My cheeks burned. My vision blurred again, but I didn't wipe the tears this time. And to the people who made her feel small tonight. He paused again, letting that moment hang. Shame on you. She didn't deserve that. None of us did. A soft murmur swept across the room. A few people looked down at their plates. Aunt Rosalind folded her arms, lips pursed tight. Marcus sat frozen, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. Talia, Jalen said, turning to face me fully, I'm so sorry I didn't say this sooner. Thank you. I love you, and I hope you know. You were never invisible to me. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them. Honest, raw, no script. The audience erupted, not in applause, not in cheers, but in something better. Silence, respect. And then slowly, one by one, people started walking over to me. A nod, a hand on the shoulder. Quiet thank yous from people who hadn't noticed me all night. But none of that compared to the way Liam looked at me, proud, beaming, like I was the hero of the story. Because, in his eyes, I was. The rest of the reception blurred by in moments I wish I could bottle. After Jalen spoke, something in the air shifted. People looked at me differently, not out of pity, but like they were finally seeing me for the first time. Not the tired sister in a clearance dress, not the quiet one in the corner, but the woman who held everything together. Jalen walked over after his speech, pulled me into the kind of hug we hadn't shared since we were kids. The kind that said everything words couldn't. I could feel his heart beating fast, same as mine. I should have told them, he whispered. I should have told you. I nodded. No anger, just release. It's okay, I said softly. You know now. Liam, still clutching my hand, didn't leave my side for the rest of the night. He became my little shadow, smiling shyly every time someone came over to thank him for what he said. Even Amara's mother, who had been borderline frosty with me all day, took my hand and said, I didn't know, but I do now. Thank you, Aunt Rosalind never apologized, but she didn't say another word to me either. I think silence was all she had left after that. And Marcus? He disappeared halfway through dessert. No one missed him. That night, when I tucked Liam into bed, he looked at me through sleepy eyes and said, Did I do the right thing? I smiled and brushed a curl off his forehead. You did the bravest thing, I said, and I'll never forget it. He nodded once, like that was all he needed to hear. I sat in the living room long after he fell asleep, still in that navy dress, hair falling out of its clip, feet aching. But for the first time in a long time, my heart felt full. Not because I finally got the recognition, not because people clapped or whispered nice things, but because I had spent years pouring into others, into my brother, into my family, and for once, someone had poured back into me. Even if it came from the tiniest voice in the room, there's something powerful about being seen, truly seen. Not for what you wear or how loud you are, but for what you carry, what you give. And it took an 8-year-old boy with a juice pouch and a full heart to remind a room full of grown-ups what love really looks like. It looks like sacrifice, quiet effort, showing up when no one asks you to. It looks like picking up empty cups in a room that's already celebrating, knowing you're the reason they're celebrating at all. And now, I walk a little taller, not because I'm any different, but because I finally believe what my son already knew. I was never small. I was never invisible. I was just underestimated, and if anyone ever forgets that again, I've got a kid who knows how to find a microphone.